we are isolated from our own kind. Forget about nature and the natural rhythm of life. We are struggling to connect with each other because we don't know how to spend time with each other. We don't know how to listen to our stories. We are lost in such an unnatural movement that even to be able to pause and have a conversation deep enough, long enough for it to illuminate your understanding of life is a big challenge. Mirdad says, be one with the wind, the rain, the sun, and the earth. How natural, how simple, how pathetically difficult it is for the modern mind. Even to simply come to the now and be one with life is a big challenge. For you are not apart from nature, but a chord in its magnificent symphony. Do you see yourself as a chord in the magnificent symphony of life? If at all anything, you see yourself as a broken chord that does not produce any music. Go anywhere near it, the sound is jarring. This is the reality of the modern life. This is not to go into negativity or depression, but to see things the way they are. Unless we are willing to honestly see where we are, we cannot understand such magnificent words, because these words were spoken at a time when life was extraordinarily simple. Even 100 years ago, even 10 years ago, life was a lot simpler. We are complicating things at an accelerated pace. We are descending in a way that it is becoming harder for us to even see what is this descending. We are descending so fast that we are unable to even compare our current state to a better state and say, this is descending. This is the problem with going down too fast. If things are deteriorating, if things are disconnecting at a certain observable pace, then you can see, I don't want these changes. I don't like this. This is unnatural. A few years ago, this was possible. Any new invention, a new way of imagining life, imagining the future, it always gave us enough time to pause and compare it to the past. Between that space, there was enough time for a lot of intellectual discussion, debate, reasoning. In that process, we could understand why something is needed and what needs to be dropped, because there was time. This debate between who we are and what we are becoming is a very old debate. But in the modern world, there is no time for debate. There is no time for reasoning. Either you have to become a part of that descending for you to be recognized, for you to be visible. You have to become a part of the madness, or you have to accept an isolated, disconnected life. Without spiritual intervention, without a direct path that takes you deeper, that helps you to connect with yourself, these are the only two options available. either a life of loneliness or a life of madness. Both are forms of madness. To be able to understand such profound words, we have to be very honest about our situation, about how we interact with life. The sheer frantic pace with which we are interacting with life makes us blind to the natural rhythm and movement of life. Otherwise, what is the disconnection? Existence is still the same, nature is still the same, life is still the same. You can go back in time just by going into nature. She has not changed in all this time. If you want to know what it feels like to be in a time, let's say 100 years from now, you don't have to reconstruct the human civilization. You don't have to go and read the books of the past, connect with people of the past. Just go closer to life, closer to nature. You will get that connection. You will get that feeling. Just disconnecting from all the artificial things that have inflated our imagination, that are driving us crazy, just stepping away from that madness puts us in a totally different place and time. From that place, these words are so easy to understand. Listen to the song of the earth. She teaches the language of the heart, the rhythm of the cosmos, and the harmony of being. Modern mind is like, what the hell are you talking about? Tell me, how does this practically help me? That's the way the mind thinks. What is the use of this? I remember when I started meditating and I started reading a lot of spiritual books, meditation books, I was obviously fascinated with Buddha and his story. For me, he's always been one of the central pillars around which my meditation revolved. Every time I had a doubt, a feeling of confusion, uncertainty, is there any truth to it? Just his name, just a few verses used to bring me back to reality. It helped me to not worry too much about what was happening around me. For me, Buddha was nature. Going to him was like going to nature, because his words are timeless, applicable at all times. Just like nature. Nature is always healing, always comforting. Nature is many different things, but she's always the same. She doesn't deceive, she doesn't confuse you. I was reading Buddha's books, and I remember we were going somewhere and we were in the car. I was with my family, and I started sharing the story of Buddha with my mom. I told her, well, do you know this story where after his enlightenment, Buddha comes back to meet his wife again? He says, I left her, without giving her any intimation. I did not care about her. Now that I have realized the truth, I want to go and share it with her. I don't know how much of this story is real story, but it's there in the scriptures. It is a part of the Pali Canon. It is said that Buddha comes to the place where she's staying, and he's already with a lot of disciples. students who have already become interested in learning from him. And it is said that Buddha tells them to just stay there, and he wants to go and meet her alone, just so that he can be in his most natural state, most simplistic state. He does not want her to get intimidated or be uncomfortable. He wants her natural self to express itself, hence he leaves them behind. And I started sharing this, and my mother said, that's not the actual reason. The actual reason is she's going to start yelling and screaming at him. She's going to start abusing him. He does not want all his disciples and everybody who regard him as a teacher, to listen to all that. Hence, he cleverly leaves them behind. Of all the different interactions with my mother, this has stuck in my mind because the way she was thinking, from her point of view, what Buddha did was wrong. Because I am justifying my actions, my desire to stay away from family, stay away from friends, and spend as much time as I was spending in meditation. Once in a while, I used to come and connect with the family. So it so happened we were traveling together, but when we come back home, I used to again disconnect and go into my world of meditation. I would not see them for weeks, sometimes even months. So this is what is running in her mind. And for her, because it's her point of view, she's able to see that it does not matter whether he has realized something great or not. For her, he's a failure. He's a failure as a husband. He's a failure as a father. He's a failure as a son. He's enlightened. He is the Buddha. But she would have no conception of that. She would not care about that. This disconnection has always been there. An individual, when he makes a decision to long for truth, he has to be courageous enough to break away from the familiar. This is not a new problem. But in the modern world, this problem is tremendously amplified. Now, you are not just trying to disconnect from your physical identity. More importantly, you have to disconnect from the mental identity. Morning till evening, you have become used to doing something in your mind. For Buddha, when he made the decision to step away, he was able to accommodate that decision because silence was a natural part of his life. Stillness was a natural part of his life. It was just a way of connecting with it deeper. For the modern mind, silence and stillness are alien concepts. This language is totally alien. To be in tune with nature is to be in tune with the music of the soul, the dance of the spirit. We understand this at an intuitive level somewhere, but we cannot exercise this choice to be with nature because we don't even know in its entirety what is nature. We tend to think nature is trees and birds. Nature is the natural part of our being. To be silent is natural. To be quiet, to be still, to be in the moment is very natural. But for the modern mind, these are very unnatural things. So unnatural that they are absolutely negative. The world we have created, we have arranged things in such a way that these things are not even taken into consideration. If an individual chooses the natural things that will help him to be joyful and contented, he is criticized from the outside. And he is asked about his responsibilities, about his duties. Who are you responsible for? Are you responsible for yourself or for those around you? At the end of your life, the single biggest regret would be a life not lived for yourself. If you look back and see that most of the things you did it to please someone else, that will be a life filled with regret.